So part two of my interview with Mike Proffitt, and now we're definitely getting on to the future. We've done with the past. Now the Manx Natural Resources Limited, this presentation of you and your team. But let's have an overview. You've been working in wind farms, you said, offshore production of wind farms.
Yes.
For what, 20 years since you left the MEA?
Yes, Wales, Germany, and Poland. Yes.
So you come forward. I mean, first of all, can you believe it's 10 years ago since Dong were doing their thing here, looking at what we had to do. 10 years, and not one thing has been done. In all the places, can you believe the Isle of Man has no wind farms at all?
Yeah.
Does that seem odd to you, or is it just me?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
We've got all this natural resources are here. And
when I was at the MEA, we put anemometer towers up, and we took readings on wind speed, moisture, direction, all the data that you require up in the Ears, at Windy Corner, and above Foxdale. So we covered the area of the most likely areas, and so that data is available. So we have that, and at the time, we did quite a clever thing, I think. We reconciled it to the airport, to the Met. So there's a good chance we could cut some corners on that.
Because phase one is onshore, right? Because a lot of people think these things now sitting out in the middle of the Irish Sea, but you're going for visually impacting issues here. You know what we're talking about? Not in my backyard will be a massive issue, right?
That's right. It's an issue, and it's as much of an issue as anybody wants to make of it. Mm-hmm. But the area that we would like to develop cannot be seen from anywhere except if you're in the air in a helicopter.
Oh, that
or
remote.
on a plane.
Okay.
And cannot be seen from anybody's window, whether they're standing on their roof or on top of their house. Or it's totally remote. Yeah.
And how many are you talking about? How many do you think you can get in here without being seen?
Well, that's not something we could answer with any great accuracy at the moment, because it depends on the wind regime and how that is balanced by the technology that's available at the moment.
But would it be a wind farm or just the odd one here and there?
No, it'd be a farm.
Right. That comprises what makes a farm? 10? Is there such thing as that?
We would be wanting to do something like 100.
Oh, 100, right. Are these big ones or smaller ones then?
Small ones.
Ah.
If we were doing 2 megawatts, we'd want 100. If we were doing 4 megawatt machines, we'd want one.
Right.
We'd want a quarter that many.
Yeah. So this is phase one. That'd be phase one. What's phase two? Is there more? 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, phase one. We're concentrating on 3 natural resources: wind, water, and gravity.
Now gravity, that's water up and down.
Pump hydro.
Which is something, again, we probably could do quite well here with the amount of water.
Very, very well indeed.
And that's the one you really need when you want instantaneous power.
Yeah,
right?
the hydro turbines today will go from standstill to fully charge in 15 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because we look at Solby, and that's like what 1% it makes from their turbine. That's a tiny little thing, but is that just technology that was and where we are now?
That's not the same technology as pump hydro. No. There's a schematic in there. You'll see it, Paul.
Mm-hmm. What was phase 2? Well, that was 3, wasn't it? So, water. You've been doing with water? Isn't it the same thing?
The gravity.
It is. Yeah. Okay, so that's
gravity gives the water the energy that you then use to convert into electricity.
Where's solar in your list?
I don't like it.
Well, we do get a bit of sunshine. Too
Yeah,
expensive.
Beautiful day
old technology.
Today.
Storing it again. What's the issue?
Competition with land. Mm-hmm. Environmentally, not so good. Not so reliable. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, if we want to decarbonise our electricity network, then I think wind farms and pump hydro are the way to do it.
Do you have to buy the land that you're going to put these wind farms on, or what do you want to do?
No,
Borrow them?
we'd
Land lease?
We'd lease the land from the government
Oh,
and
okay.
pay them rent.
Right. But you're looking for a lot of money from the government to put this scheme in. Is this a subsidy or a carrot?
We're not looking for any money from the government.
No money?
At all.
No grants?
Zero, zero, zero.
Okay.
One thing we have said to them is, if they were interested in wanting to own it, and they brought the subject up, then we would put an option in the contract.
But otherwise, might Proffitt and Co. in your team make the electricity, which you then sell to the government?
Yeah, under a power purchase agreement. Yeah.
Right. But you still own the hardware, basically?
Yes.
Right. Is that the standard way of doing it?
Yes.
And you get yourself a license for so many years at a time?
Yeah,
or?
normally it's a 20-year license.
And how long do these wind farms, the actual turbines?
20 years.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
What are they? Is there a thing? I mean, cost-wise, they've come down a lot, I guess, from the. Because we were talking about this in the Isle of Man. I don't know how long ago. I was a boy when they first talked about wind farms here.
Well, when you were a boy, there was one put up on the hill, the highland above Kirkmichael.
Was there?
The only thing is, the blades blew off and landed about 5 miles away.
Right. What about tidal? This hasn't come into your things. When you say water, you say, I was expecting
No,
to say tidal.
I've done tidal in Perth, Australia.
And no?
No, it's very difficult. The seawater is the most difficult medium to do anything in.
But we have great tides. That's not the trouble with it.
Yeah, we do,
tides.
but you
It's
have
guaranteed.
you have to be able to build the plant that makes the electricity. Whether it goes round and round like an underwater wind farm, or whether it goes up and down like some sort of cistern, but it's got to avoid corroding. And so you have a high rate of corrosion, you have lots of maintenance costs, lots of downtime, and you can't always get at it because the water's too rough.
Now, with phase one is just turbines, so you're still going to need the power stations as backup, right? And when the wind's not blowing. So you're going to have to keep these things going or renewed or whatever?
Well, at the moment, the power station is coming to the end of its guaranteed life. Now, I was talking to some chaps in Treasury not long ago, and they were off the belief that that meant the end of the power station. But the 20-year manufacturer's guarantee is not the life of the power station. It simply means that if anything goes wrong after 20 years, you have to fix it yourself. It's like there's plenty of people buy a new car out of the showroom, but as soon as the 5-year guarantee is up, they don't throw it away.
No.
You keep on fixing it yourself.
What do you think it's got in it? I mean, have you got...
It depends on the maintenance regime. If you're careful, to have another... Well, it would have another 50 or 60 years. You simply... It's the burners that burn, what they call the combustors. That's the part that goes. That's where you're burning the gas. And that's coming out the back end of the turbine at 650 bar, at massive temperatures. They're the parts, and you just replace those. You might have to replace them once every 15 years or so.
And it's been interesting. I mean, maybe the part of your legacy is that we spent years generating for the UK, didn't we, in downtimes and sending stuff away. It made money for the Isle of Man, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we did very well before I left. We were selling. Our best year was, I think, we made 3.5 million just trading with the UK.
Let's talk about people involved in your bid. Sir Miles Walker is your big highlight, advisor to the executive team. So, I mean, Sir Miles Walker doesn't put his name to anything. I know the guy very well. You couldn't get a more saintly person in the Isle of Man. Everyone loves him. I'm not being silly, but is that a clever bit of thing, or he really backs you? Or give us some idea of what he's going to do for you.
Well, I've obviously had a discussion with Sir Miles, and I don't believe that I was without fault in my time when I was running the MEA.
Right.
Perhaps I didn't play the game as carefully or as cleverly as I should have done. Perhaps I should have moved more gingerly among politicians than I did. I just want somebody to... I'd like to have a sort of... somebody who can tap me on the shoulder and say, tread carefully, Mike, you upset him on that interview you did with Paul Moulton. You know?
With me? Never. No, but I mean, so you know, you're friends, or this is a business working relationship, or?
Well, it would be a business working relationship, but I've known Sir Miles all my life. I went to Castle Rushen. He's lived in Bellabeg. The family farm has been in Bellabeg. Well, I guess it's Colby. I'm not sure where one starts and one begins.
Give me a time scale on this whole thing. I mean, you're putting a bid in, are you? I mean, is it open for bids at the minute? And where are we up to? Is it just you going forward and offering it?
That's the whole thing. 2 years ago, there was an advert came in the Examiner, and it was put in by the government, and they invited people to send in proposals to build a 20 megawatt onshore wind farm. So I sent a proposal in.
2 years ago?
2 years ago. Never heard anything from anybody. And so finally, I just went along and I said, look, then I heard there was a much bigger scheme afoot where they wanted to decarbonise the network. Well, I know that our network can take, you know, we've had the days where maximum demand has been in the 80 megawatts. So, you know, it's a much bigger scheme than 20. So, so I've put this together, and I think this is a solution that will work.
So you're putting in a bid that at the minute nobody else is, well, there's no actual requirements. So, well, it was 2 years ago. This is going to get confusing. Yeah. And you're just hoping that they're going to pick up your offer and run with it. It's not going to cost us anything. You make some money clearly when you sell the electricity back. That's your profit centre. Must use a pun, but it had to happen sometime. You know, I mean, you know, you're a businessman, right? So you've got to make money on this thing. Clearly, we all like to do that. But is it? I'm asking the wrong person. Is it a good deal for the Isle of Man? You're going to say yes, of course you are.
Well, let's talk about that.
Right. In
July, it's already been announced in print and on Manx radio, I believe, that we expect the MUA's tariffs to be 34 pence per kilowatt hour, not including the daily, standing charge. Yeah. Well, do we want to see that drop down to 9 kilowatts, or are we happy for it to go from 34 to 36 to 40 to 46? Are we happy just to sit back and pay out all this money when that is not necessary?
Should this have been done 10 years ago, or is the timing now right? Because no doubt the technology is better and cheaper, whatever.
The technology is better, it is cheaper. Proven track record. There's no time like the present. I'm always one for getting on with something and getting it done.
What about Crogger? Do they put anything, you know?
Well, they're offshore.
I know, but the point is, if Crogger does what it does and it comes off, then gas locally will tumble in price, won't it? Because they're guaranteeing it being fixed at a nicer rate anyway for the Isle of Man. And then, of course, the power station generates electricity off the gas. Do you see that as competition to you?
No.
Because?
I'd rather not answer that question.
Oh, okay. But this is totally going to be funded by you. I'm just trying to think of anything else I need to ask you here, because I think we're pretty well covered. Have I missed anything out that you want to say?
Price is the big factor that the population should focus on. Forget who's going to build it. Forget where the fuel comes from. It's got to be price at the end, and the end is your 3-pin plug or your meter into your house. That's the one thing. The security of that supply has got to be another thing. We don't want wars in Central Europe to keep on increasing the cost of our electricity. And of course, you know, we want to look after the environment, so we want clean technology, and gas is a carbon-based fuel. Let's face it.
So how much do we use at a maximum here in the Isle of Man? You know, if you hit
Electricity.
Yeah, and how many megawatts, whatever you call it?
Well, the maximum demand at the moment, I'm not sure.
No,
but when I was there,
you're about 200, aren't you, to produce?
oh no, that's
Is that
the technical term is that's the nameplate.
okay?
That's the rating on the engine.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
So that would produce probably as much as, depending on how the wind was blowing,
yes,
it would produce between 45 and 85 megawatts.
Okay, let's try. Would you be able to produce enough for the Isle of Man if it's blowing nicely in the day?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So it won't need any more. If you get what you want, that should do us for a while.
Yes.
Plus the next phase of trying to store the stuff when
Yes.
not needed. So when are we going to talk to you next? When you're digging the ground, putting in a turbine, or
Well,
you've got a lot of hoops to go through? I'm guessing nothing is easy these days, is it?
no, well, there's a lot of hoops to get things started, but this wouldn't be the first thing I've got started, and there's probably more in me than I think.